Should you get and build Ebenholz? Short answer, probably yes. Long answer, this entire video.
貴殿に誠心誠意の謝意を伝えさせてくれ、ロドスのドクター。私のような故郷を追われた取るに足らない輩を受け入れてくれて感謝する。非才なる好みであってもロドスの事業に貢献できるのであれば喜ばしいことだ。
Ebenholz is a 6-star mystic caster from Lithuania. Those who have limited access will be told that Ebenholz is just a regular student from the city of Viseheim that studies music and originium arts. He was infected in a certain incident in that city and later recommended to Rhodes Island for treatment by operator Hibiscus. But truth to be told, he's not just any regular person. He is a member of the nobility from the city of Utica, and also the descendant of the Witch King's bloodline. After a series of events in the city of Viseheim, Ebenholz is now a Rhodes Island operator while also undergoing treatment, where he occasionally plays musical instruments in the landship. Some people said he's best at playing flute, but instead he frequently plays cello, with a sad and melancholic melody. My friend, stop romanticizing your melancholic solitude and get a therapy. Anyway, Eben is the new 6-star in the Lingering Echoes event, and the first 6-star Mystic Caster in the game. Mystic Caster is famous to deal a massive amount of damage from their charged attack. Ebenholz himself is specialized in wave clearing and boss killing. Unlike other Mystic, he doesn't have any crowd control or stalling ability. So for an operator that only focused on DPS, he has a pretty tough competitor. So, let's see more about him. Ebenholz is a Mystic Caster that can charge or store their attack up to 3 or 4 with module. And when there's an enemy within range, they unleash all of the stored attacks at once, resulting in them dealing a big damage. With this massive damage they dealt, you don't want them to attack a trash mob. 2 other Mystic we already have proved to be quite difficult to achieve this, since they don't have a targeting priority or something alike. Luckily, Hypergriff more or less fixed this issue with their new Mystic Caster. Okay, back to Ebenholz. Let's see his stats. Mystic Caster has a very big attack stat, and Eben himself is a caster with the biggest attack stat in the game. But as expected, Mystic Caster has the slowest attack interval in the game. And Ebenholz DP cost is also quite big. Now let's see his talents. Ebenholz's first talent is pretty much Iris talent with an extra step, where his stored attack will deal critical damage. And he can also store 1 additional charge of attack that will only used for elite or bosses. With this, he can deal even more damage with his stored attack energy. But keep in mind he will only start storing an attack energy for bosses once he's done charging all of his normal attacks, indicated by this red orb. Okay, as for his second talent, when he attacks an enemy, and there's no other enemy around its 8 surrounding tiles, Eben will deal additional arts damage to that enemy. It's a great talent when the target moves alone without other enemies. And if they do, you can use other operators to block that other enemy. And this is his potential. Got a good upgrade from it, but I think Ebenholz is fine without other potential. Moving on, we normally talk about modules after this, but I think it's better if we look at his skills first. Eben's first skill is the same as other Mystic Caster. It will change his range to a straight tile, and significantly reduce attack interval. This skill aims to make the Mystic Caster store all of their attack in a short time. But it can reduce the damage of a full charged attack if timed incorrectly, as they only deal 50% of their attack during this skill duration. Though 50% of their attack still packs quite a punch. Moving to the second skill. Once the skill is active, Eben will expend all of his stored attacks, and summons these old day remnants. which is pretty much WS2 mine, but arts damage plus pulling ability. Ebenhol summons his mine to any deployable tile, even a ranged tile. In total, he can summons 5 mines with a full charged attack energy. The mines will explode once the enemy is 1 tile away from it, dealing high AoE arts damage, and pull the enemy toward the mine that exploded. The pulling mechanism is useful in 2 ways. One, to pull the enemy to another mine, to create a chain reaction of explosion. Although if it's a weak enemy, you might end up wasting your mines. And 2, to shift the enemies, that sometimes even mess up their pathing. Or at least disrupt their movement a little bit, if it's a heavyweight enemy. This skill does a lot of damage, especially at full charge. Not to mention this gives Eben an AoE capability, helping to clear waves of enemies, particularly those who have high def but low res. But this skill is quite difficult to achieve its full damage potential, especially if enemies keep pouring non-stop. Worst case scenario is when Eben has a full charge of attack energy, but before his skill is active, he ended up using his charged attack too early, resulting in fewer mine that he summons. You can avoid this in a couple of ways, like giving him a certain distance from enemy spawn point. And I find sleep debuff is quite useful for this skill. But wave downtime is always his best friend. Lastly, his third skill. Eben will increase his attack speed and attack. His talent damage will be increased by 1.4 times. And during this skill duration, he will only attack elite or boss enemy. And also this skill can be manually deactivated. The attack speed bonus makes it easier for Eben to fully charge his attack and unleash them to the elite or bosses once they enter his range. Also, as far as I see, Eben will always prioritize bosses over elites. If you want to attack a specific enemy, the timing is very important here. With a full charge of attack plus his talent 1, he can deal a massive damage. But Eben pretty much only got 1 chance to deal a fully charged attack. If the target he hits with a fully charged attack survive, his next attack on that enemy will be weaker, though still a pretty strong attack. His inability to attack normal enemies also suits his archetype, as he can focus on giving his massive attack to a more dangerous enemy. His S3 also shines on those bosses who have periods of invulnerability, where he can use that chance to safely charge his attack. Eben S3 is also famous to deal with a certain boss like the Chapter 11 boss, which occasionally takes off into the air, making Eben can charge his attack and hit the boss once he lands. Now let's see his modules. His first module that is released alongside his debut event is his X module. This module will increase the amount of attack that he can store by 1, also increasing his attack and a little bit of attack speed. I find this module useful for his S3 to deal even more damage, as his S3 attack speed can make it easier to fully charge his attack. As for skill 2, more stored attacks means more mines. But I think his S2 will be better with his other module that we will talk soon. And then this is the X module upgrade effects. It will improve his first talent and give him more attack and attack speed. If you want to make the most out of his boss killing ability, use his S3 in this module. As for his second module, released in Muina debut event, this one will increase his attack speed by 30 if he holds at least 1 stored attack energy, increasing his attack stat, and increasing his max HP by a small amount, which is very unnecessary. I find this module useful for general usage, when he is using his normal attack, or for skill. This will suit his S2 to make him store his energy faster. And this is also useful for his S3. And it's because the module upgrade, it will improve his talent 2 damages. And now, when there's an enemy near the main target, that enemy will receive a certain amount of arts damage. So basically you turned him into a mini AoE caster. Very useful to make him not rely on others too much to clear the mob around the main target you want him to attack. Once the other mob is defeated, he can give more damage to the main target. As for skill mastery priority, go for his S3. S2 is optional, For just clearing regular mob, level 7 is enough. Or you can leave it at M2, to decrease the SP cost to 13. As for his base skills, when assigned to the trading post, for every 1 operator in the dorm, gain 1 perception information. And every perception information is converted into silent resonance. And for every 2 silent resonance, order acquisition efficiency is increased by 1%. You should be able to combo this with other operators that give perception information. So, will Ebenholz become a good operator for your team? Ebenholz is a good crowd sweeper and boss killer. Longtime player can mix his abilities with other operators to increase his boss killing efficiency. For a newbie, his S2 is a good skill to deal with crowds, and is quite good to use to deal with some early bosses. But compared with other operators, Ebenholz is not a very practical option. If you don't want to trouble yourself with his mechanism, I'd say you can skip him, and I say this for a couple of other reasons. First, other operators can do a similar or better job at mob clearing, boss killing, or both. Second, his debut banner consists of good operators, but is not a must-pull candidate. And third, Ebenholz banner is in a tight spot right now. Arknights will hold an anniversary event in mid-January. Most likely the Garvial altar banner will be released alongside it. Or released in February, if they don't skip Dorothy's event. Either way, it's quite close. And if you're not confident with your pulls, better save as much as you can, since this limited banner is highly recommended. That should be all. Auf Wiedersehen.